Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm Dave Westcott, CEO of Evergreen Brands, which is Condo Shield, Westcott Consulting Group, TransBlue Franchise Company. And today I'm running solo. So, special guest, Dave Melinda was supposed to join us this morning, had some technical difficulties with the computer audio system, not wanting to play ball. So because of that, we're going to live out one of our favorite core values, and that is be nimble. So this morning, we are going to be nimble. We are set. We are prepped. We are ready to go. And guess what? In any situation, we're going to have a great call because no matter what the challenge, no matter what the adversity, we are having fun. And since this is my podcast, The Entrepreneurial Journey, I'm having fun and I'm ready to go. And I got something great to talk about. And this is actually one of my favorite topics anyways, because at heart, I'm just a good old sales guy, right? I love selling. I love that part of the business. I love closing deals. Nothing makes me more excited than closing deals. So what we're going to talk about this morning is the methodology behind the methodology behind the program in which I use to close deals. And that's what it's all about. And I'm going to tell you, sales is all about one thing, and that's mathematics. So everything that you learned in high school, in elementary school, in middle school, in college, everything in sales is really, really simple. It always comes down to mathematics. Let me break that down for you. So there's a couple of things that we want to knock out of the park when it comes to sales. There's a couple of things we want to do really, 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 really good, and we want to know who our ideal customer is, right? We don't want to sell to people who are not in our ideal customer range. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a story, and I'm going to tell you a story about how I built a sales organization super, super fast, okay? So what some of you don't know is that we started the TransBlue brand. The name TransBlue started in 2016, okay? The name of our business prior to that was Superior Maintenance Solutions, same group of guys, same people, but for the sake of building a franchise business, we did a big rebrand, and we came with the name TransBlue. And so we really focused on what TransBlue was going to look like, and we wanted to understand what our ideal customer was. And so in this particular time frame, within our franchise business, our goal was to sell to the residential client, and our goal was to sell residential construction services. And when I mean residential construction services, I'm talking about swimming pools. I'm talking about outdoor pergolas. I'm talking about patios. I'm talking about synthetic turf. I'm talking about fireplaces and fire pits. I'm talking about, in all reality, outdoor living space activities. And so what we did was we had to put together a program because prior to that, we had been doing a lot of national sales. Our sales were really focused on national clients and gaining national clients and bringing in customers that had 50 plus locations and were multi-site. And those were like on-demand type work, like plumbing, handyman, so on and so forth type projects, janitorial projects, landscaping maintenance, parking lot sweeping, snow removal, that sort of thing. So those items were really important for us. And so what we had to do was we had to say, how are we going to generate leads? And so before we ever, put anything together for our franchise, we said, we're going to build it internally and we're going to run it. We're going to execute it. We're going to develop it. And we are going to be successful at it before we sell a franchise. That was our plan. That was our goal. That was our model. Basically, what we wanted to do was create a test tube baby. So the name TransBlue was synonymous with nothing. Being in the Seattle market, it's not like people knew, oh, TransBlue, you've been around for all these years. Oh, TransBlue, we know you. Oh, TransBlue, you've been around for all this time. And so people ask all the time, where did the name TransBlue come from? Well, the name TransBlue came from transparency. Right? And how did I see transparency? Transparency meant I was out on a beautiful lake or a beautiful part of the ocean and I could see all the way down to the bottom. For me, that was transparency, right? That was the ability to see everything in between. And that's really the name was birthed. But how did we create a sales program? What did that look like for us? And what we decided was that we knew that people who had money, people who were successful, people who bought Rolex, for example, or people who bought Mercedes-Benz, for example, or people who bought Ferrari, for example, people like this, people who purchased these type of things, one thing was consistent, that no matter whether the economy was high or low, they were always purchasing. Like Bill Gates, for example, or anybody like that, Paul Allen, or any of these people, or even any of the executives who make millions and millions of dollars. These people aren't stopping their outdoor living space project because of an economic downturn, right? It's interesting because, during the Great Recession of 2007, 8, 9, maybe 10 in there, we look around and we see, how did things develop? How did things change in the Seattle market? Well, Louis Vuitton is a premium luxury brand. There used to be a Louis Vuitton store in Seattle. Well, guess what? Now there's one in Bellevue. So premium luxury has doubled its footprint in the Seattle market, right? We look at many, many stores like that. There's a Prada store in Bellevue. Oh, there's Prada in Seattle. So you start to look at those things and you start to say, did luxury sales go down? Did luxury brands stop selling their product because of economic downturn, or was their particular product so insulated because their purchaser had so much money that it didn't matter what the economy was doing, they still wanted that Louis Vuitton bag? What's the difference between driving from Seattle to Bellevue? It's like 25 minutes, right? So to make it more convenient, we now have a second Louis Vuitton store. Now, how many of us has been to Vegas, right? Vegas, okay, there's literally a 1 to 2 Louis Vuitton stores in like every hotel, right? So at the end of the day, we know that there's a lot of Louis Vuitton because there's a lot of people spending a lot of money on those particular markets. So what we said was we want to identify the key players, the key people who are going to spend money on our projects, and we want to do this in this market. So what we did was we said, we're going to look up all the millionaires. We're going to look up how many billionaires. We're going to look at all of these people, and we're going to find the richest neighborhoods. Well, at the time, what we found was that Clyde Hill was the richest area per median income where people lived, and it was like $406,000 per, annual income. And then we found some more data through Experian that said, wait a minute, Medina is the richest area at $516,000 per average income. And so we looked at those and we said, okay, we looked at these different sources and we put them together and we worked a fact check and get the best information. And what we did was we came up with the top 10 zip codes. Okay. And we said in these 10 zip codes, so Clyde Hill, Medina, Queen Anne, Edmonds, Mukilteo, we looked at these top markets and we said, these are the top selling zip codes in this entire area. And we said, our entire marketing plan is going to be driven at these zip codes. So we said, okay, we're brand new to the market. How are we going to develop this? Because remember, this is like a brand new business, right? This is like 101. This is like just starting out. This is just moving forward. So we said, how are we going to do this? How are we going to put this forward? What does this plan really look like for us? And so what we said was, well, we started Googling outdoor patio, outdoor construction, outdoor swimming pool, pergola, outdoor living space. All of these terms, we started Googling them. And guess what we found? We found that it was very consistent that it would be Thumbtack, which is a lead conduit, Yelp, Home Advisor, Angie's List, Porch. We found that the internet was just filled with these lead conduits that were basically just places that were grabbing contractors, getting them to pay a fee, and then buying ads on basically Google, for lack of a better term. And what we found is that no matter where we were, nobody could outspend these places. And then we looked further and we found, man, they've got TV commercials and they've got ads and they've put all this money towards marketing because basically they're just buying an ad, reselling it to a contractor, putting a lead in your lap, and now you've got to get through the door. And so what we found was we said, okay, let's go after this. So it's 2017. We're running multiple businesses, but the TransBlue is just starting. It's just getting its feet wet under that name and under that residential construction program. And so what we found was we started our lead advertising in roughly May of 2017. And we got together with Home Advisor and Angie's List, which were separate at the time, but merged shortly thereafter. And we said, listen, we only want to advertise in these 10 zip codes. And they said, dude, you guys are crazy. This is not going to work. This is going to be the biggest failed marketing plan of all time. And I was like, no, it's going to work. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be everything that we want it to be. And they said, no, this marketing plan is going to totally fail. And I said, no, it's not. And we're willing to spend the money and we're willing to move forward. And they said, okay, we're going to need you to just, send us an email saying, hey, man, we understand that we're going against the advice of, Angie's List and Home Advisor. We're going against the grain. And so this is in roughly May of 2017. And so we launch our advertising program, and now leads are starting to come in. Well, the thing about these leads is they're the right kind of customer. So how did we qualify? So the way that we qualified leads was we would get a lead from Home Advisor or Angie's List or whatever it might be, and we would say, okay, great, this lead has come in, now let's qualify it. And so the way that we qualified it was we'd say, listen, if this home was worth $1 million or more in value, and today $1 million is like nothing, but was a little bit better back then. But if a home was worth $1 million in value, what we understood and thought was that particular customer was going to have liquid cash to spend money, and they were going to spend money with us because we were going to be the best. Right? And so what we did was we said, okay, here's the plan. If the house is not worth $1 million, don't go see them. If it's not in the right neighborhood, don't go see them. Now, we're going to qualify the project. It's a retaining wall, it's a patio, it's a swimming pool, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And so we're going to qualify that project. And if that project is not worth more than $10,000 that we can see, we're going to turn it down. We're going to say, hey, our minimum project size is around $10,000. And so this did two things. This weeded out small projects that we didn't want to see that weren't going to help us to hit our volume number. And on top of that, what it did was it removed projects that were going to be small or that were going to be hard for, the customer to pay for. Like it was just nickel and dime, or you're not going to, you're not selling to the right customer. So we removed those from our program. And so that removed the leads even more. Okay. So then we said, great. Now we have all this information. We know who we're going to go after, and we're going to go after it with professionalism. And that's a completely different call. But at the end of this, we know now who our customer is. So now what are some things that we need to know? And some things that we had to figure it out, and I've got them just jotted down on my pad, is we've got to understand our close rate. What is the rate in which we close work? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter unless we close, right? Nothing matters unless we close. And so what we were able to look at was historical data that says that we closed at 34%. So now that we know, okay, basically we're going to close one, out of every 3 jobs, we're going to close 3 out of every 10 jobs, roughly, right? So now we understand that. But then we had to understand, what was our cost of acquisition? Like, what does it cost us to buy a job? Because this is really, really important. If we know what it costs us to buy a job, now we know exactly how many leads we need to run, how much money we're going to spend, and we know how we can scale. Meaning we can really work in reverse. So if I want to do $5 million in revenue, I know exactly how many jobs I need to do, right? And so what we're able to do is we're able to say, okay, how do we figure out our cost of acquisition? Well, we knew that a lead would cost us, around $150. Okay. That was just give or take, because we averaged it out between the different lead conduits that we were using, and it was about $150 a lead. And then what we were able to figure is that we closed 1 out of 3. So a portion of our cost of acquisition was $450 because we were going to lose 2 out of every 3 jobs that we went and bid, right? We just knew that was going to happen. And then each piece of collateral that we gave to a customer was worth about $20, let's say. So at the end of the day, we know that we're delivering $20 worth of collateral. That's a nice, thick, professional brochure that showcases different projects and so forth. And so now we know that we're only closed 1 out of 3, so we got to give 3 brochures out to win 1 job. So that's another $60. And then what we said was, well, we got to drive to these jobs, right? So what does it cost us from the standpoint of the truck and the fuel? And so we took, okay, this is the monthly payment, and this is how many payments we're going to make in a month, and this is our average fuel spend. And what we did was we were able to say, okay, divided by the amount of leads that we were going to hit, and our goal was 30 a week, so 1,560 leads a year was what we wanted each salesman to be able to attack and handle. We knew that our spend on fuel and truck was about $15 a lead. And so we start to put these things together, and now we've got a salesperson, and we'll just say that a salesperson, benefits, all in, everything loaded and ready to go, is about another $100,000 a year. And so, with that, what we figured was, well, okay, we need to divide that by the amount of leads that we're going to run, because that'll give us the cost of lead for the salesperson. And so what we knew was that we were going to spend $64 a lead, roughly $192, because we were only going to win one out of every three. And what this totaled was we were able to come up with $735 per customer for the cost of acquisition. On a residential design and build or residential outdoor living space, we were able to understand that's what each job was going to cost us. So now we know exactly how much we're going to spend. Okay, now what is the value of every single job? Well, the value of every single job that we were able to find, because we totaled them all up and we were able to see what it was $34,000. So if I wanted to do 5 million, all I do is take my 5 million and I divide it by 34,000, and that means I need to do 147 jobs in a year. Now, that's not a lot of jobs based on those close rates. If I take my 147, divide it by 12, that means I only need to close 12.25 or 13 jobs every single month. Now, some months are going to be weighted heavier than others, but at the end of the day, I now understand exactly how many people I have to get in front of. I understand exactly how many jobs I need to sell to get my business done. So if I need to get 147 jobs, I know that my cost of acquisition is $108,045 for those jobs. That's what I understand, right? Because now I've put together a plan that says this is how I am getting to where I need to be. Okay. And so when I understand my budget, when I understand what I'm spending, when I understand what the cost per lead is, I now understand how to build a sales force. I now understand how to build a sales team. And when I understand how to build a sales team, I can accomplish anything. Excuse me, man, that water's good. I'm going to tell you what, life force right there. So thank you, Ralph, for hooking me up with that. So at the end of the day, now I've started to understand exactly where I need to be. And so why do I want to run 30 leads a week? Why do I want to do that? Well, I call that the driver method. And how I put that together is I say you've got one guy driving and you got one guy doing the bids. And the goal is to get the bid to the customer, right, within 15 minutes. Because we know that the quicker we get the lead to the customer, the faster we're going to close the deal, right? The faster you throw it in here, the quicker it's going out. Sounds like a baseball analogy, right? I'm going to hit this one out of the park. But that's essentially what we do to say this is our cost of acquisition. This is our average close rate. And now when we understand these things, we've built a dynamic business. And we know what our revenue is going to be before we even get there. And guess what? The numbers don't lie. So if you're taking notes on this call or you're looking at building your sales organization, I'm going to break it back down for you, and I'm just going to make it really simple. So let's just say for your sales organization that you want to close $10 million in business. So we take 10 million and we write that number down, and that's what we know is our goal. So we're going to start with the goal, and we're going to put that down at the very, very end, right? So, okay, I've got my goal set. Awesome. Okay, now if I know my close rate, then I know exactly how I'm going to get there, right? So if I've got $10 million, I just throw that into my calculator, and I say, okay, now I divide that by 34,000. That tells me that to do $10 million, I need to close 295 jobs. Always round up because it's 294. So now I know I've got to get 295 jobs done and closed to make $10 million if the average job is $34,000. What happens if the job size doubles and I do bigger jobs? Super simple, right? Now I only have to close, what is that, like 147 and a half jobs or 148 jobs? Now I only have to close 148 jobs. But I like those jobs in that $25,000, $45,000 range. That's where I like the jobs. They're not too complicated. They're not too difficult to get taken care of. The permitting isn't too crazy. It's pretty easy to knock those jobs out, right? So now I understand how many jobs I need to do. Now, if I understand the close rate, and let's just say that the close rate is, 33%, now I understand exactly how many jobs, how many estimates that I have to run to hit my number, right? So how do I do that? Okay, so I take my 295, all right? So if you're taking notes, we take our 295 and we multiply it by 3, and that gives us 885 jobs. This is how many job leads that we have to run. Now, this doesn't account for slippage or, customers who call that you can't get a hold of or anything like that. This is just fundamental across the board. How am I closing work? How am I bringing in the bacon? How am I bringing in the money, right? So now I need to run 885 jobs. Well, I got 52 weeks in a year. So I'm going to say, okay, I got 52 weeks in a year, which means I need to run what? 17 jobs per week, right? Divided by 5, I need to run 3.5 or 4 jobs per day. So now I know exactly how many estimates. Jobs, estimates are the same thing, right? Jobs meaning how many potential jobs am I looking at, which I'm going to turn into proposals or estimates. Proposals, estimates are very similar. There is some nuances that we can break down and get technical about it. But at the end of the day, we're either providing a customer, which is a job, either an estimate or a proposal, one way or the other, right? Well, that's what we're going to provide them. So at the end of the day, now I understand exactly what I need to do per day, every day to hit my goal. And so if I want to build a sales organization and I'm saying, hey, Bob, I want you to run 2 estimates a day, but my goal is 10 million. It's never going to happen. It never will happen. You will never, ever, ever get there. Now, what do we understand is that about this type of work is that the annual account value is only a one-time job. Like, these people aren't going to call you back again. You're not going to do a refer job. Maybe you will, but more than likely it's a one-time job. So you need to keep that into consideration. Your $34,000 item, that is really what the total lifetime value of that customer is going to be. Maybe you're going to get some change orders out of it. Maybe that's going to roll that way. But at the end of the day, base it based on I'm going to get one job, one time, and that's what I'm going to do. So now I understand what's happening. So what else do I want to track? Well, I want to track the number of leads that come in. So for example, if I'm using Yelp, and this is going to be a true statistic here. So in a month, we're going to see, somewhere in the neighborhood of, 30 Yelp leads. And what we're going to understand is that if we get 30 Yelp leads in a month, man, that's awesome, because we wanted to run 120 leads, so they were able to provide 25% of our value that we needed. Now, what do we look at? Okay, how many leads do we run? What's our close rate? Okay, our close rate stays about the same, roughly 30% with Yelp. And what's our average cost per job on Yelp? Well, it was $17,000. Okay, and what do we pay Yelp every month? We pay them a fixed rate of $1,000. So now we know how Yelp performs. Should we put more money into it, or we take more money away? This is a true story. We used House, which is another lead conduit platform that basically you take pictures, you upload them to the source, and you close deals. So what we found was month after month that we only would get maybe 3 to 4 leads out of House. That's all that would ever come in month after month. But we found this really interesting statistic is that we closed 50% of everything that came in through House. And then we found this really other neat statistic that the average jobs that closed through House were $100,000 in value. And then we looked at what we paid House at the time, and it was like $450 a month. So how valuable was that lead conduit? Because that lead conduit was now producing $200,000 in revenue for a $450 a month spend. So it was like, wow, this is an incredible lead source. So it doesn't matter if you're getting your leads through Google or through referrals or through the magnet on the side of your truck or dumping business cards at the local teriyaki spot and pinning them to the wall. Like, at the end of the day, it does not matter where you get your leads. Track it. Because you want the leads that are going to pay off the biggest dollars. Now, how did we have a high closing rate? How did we do that? How did we touch those things? Because we knew our customer. And I'll give you some quick stats. Most jobs we had going on at one time in our office, most jobs we had going on at one time was 175 jobs. Most jobs that we closed in 1 month was 49. Most jobs that we closed in 1 day was 13 jobs closed in a day. Those are real statistics. Those are Hall of Fame style statistics. But how do you know how to do that? How do you know what's too much? How do you know how to build your business? How do you know how to execute for these customers? It's all a process. It's understanding the process, and then it's holding your team accountable. So once you understand the math, once you understand the numbers, once you have a system in place, now you've got to track it, because nothing works, nothing sells, unless we track it. So we track everything. We have a weekly meeting. What are we doing? We're tracking in that meeting. We've got a scorecard. We scorecard what they're doing. How many estimates? What was the time of delivery for those estimates? So on and so forth. How did you do that? Well, we just put it together, right? We put it together based on this exact formula, on this exact methodology. What I've showed you today, what I've shared with you today, is the tips, the tricks, the secrets on how to make millions of dollars in revenue. Because there is so many people buying your product. There is so many thousands of people looking for what you have to sell right now that it's mind-blowing. There's so many people beating down your door for work. It's insane. And you know what? I'm going to tell you this. 90% of all contractors out there suck. So for the contractors that out there hear that, I apologize. But listen, here's the deal. At the end of the day, I have projects all the time. I've got property in, a few different places. And I always have to have something done. I've always got to have some kind of project done personally. It doesn't matter if it's HVAC, electrical, plumbing, landscaping maintenance, drywall, painting. It doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, I've got a person on my team who just helps me get bids just for stuff that we're working on so that I can review them. And guess what? We can go out, contact 5 customers or five contractors, and guess what? Out of those 5 contractors, maybe we'll get 1 bid back. Maybe we'll get 2 bids back. If we're lucky, they never follow up. They never ask you if you want to move forward with the work. Like, the customer service and the follow through is not there. And so if you want to take your business to the next level, all you need to do is bring the work to you. If you bring the work to you and you've got a process and a plan in place, you can absolutely take your business to the next level and close millions of dollars of work. Because what I find is that contractors are amazing at getting the work done. They're amazing at their craft. They're amazing at, the concrete or the cabinet or whatever it might be in many, many different ways. And, some of them still screw it up too at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, like, what we've got is guys who are good at their craft most of the time, but they're not good at running the business. They're not good at putting a plan in place. They're not good at putting a scorecard in place. So there's so much work. I've got lots of snow and ice work. I haven't even touched on snow and ice, but snow and ice is a big part of my business. It's a big part of what we do and who we are. And you know what? We've got a very similar process. We've got a very similar deal. We know how many people we need to email, how many calls we need to make, how many customers we need to touch base with. And our pipeline right now, or as of last Friday, is over $500 million in estimated snow work. $500 million, or like $505 million in estimated snow work for this season. How do we have so much work? It's really, really, really simple. We follow a process. So this is what I do all day. Manage the team, ensure that we're following the process, ensure that we're hitting our goals, ensuring that we are on point. As we bring this thing in for a landing, if you need help in your sales organization, if you need help building your scorecard, if you need help putting together a true sales plan, hit me up. I consult on this every single day. I work with many, many companies, and I help them develop these exact programs and plans. How do I sell more work? Because the more work I sell, the bigger of a business I have, the more I can sell, the more I can scale, the more profitable I am. So hit me up. Send me a message. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on Facebook. Andy's out in the crowd today. Andy says, "What's up?" So Andy, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for saying what's up. I love the little emoji. And right back at you, brother. It's great to have you on the call. Thank you very much for being here today. And love working with you as well. You're a great partner. So listen, here's the deal. At the end of the day, let's work hard. Let's drive our business. Let's get everything we need to get taken care of. And thank you. I'm glad that you're proud to work with us, and we're honored that you provide services for our clients. You do a great job. Thank you very much. That's awesome. Listen, follow me on Facebook. Follow me on LinkedIn. Get with me. And I'll be back here next week, same time, 9:15 Pacific Standard Time. That's 12:15 Eastern, and that's 11:15 Central Standard. So come back, hang out with me for half an hour. If this was good for you, give it a like, give it a share, post a comment. I love to get feedback, and I love to take the time to hang out with you guys here today. Anyways, that's what we've got for you. If you're going to build your incredible business, if you're going to build $1 million business, it starts with understanding your sales, and sales starts with mathematics. And just to hit those with you one last time before we close, get your average close rate, get your cost of acquisition, get your annual account value, right? Start to understand what these things are going to cost you and what you're going to close on. And when you have that data and you make data based on decisions, you can take your business to the next level. Thank you very much and have a great day.